Come on back when you get something more. Let's bring in Brian Winter. He's the editor-in-chief of America's Quarterly. All right, Brian, as Kelly Meyer just reported, now we've got U.S. citizens on the speedboat involved in the deadly shooting in Cuba. So what questions come up for you about the incident as we're learning more?
Yeah, only questions are coming up right now, very few answers. I mean, I think that this whole story is worth treating with utmost skepticism because it's coming at a time when the tensions between the United States and Cuba have almost never been higher. 67 years since the Cuban Revolution, there have been ups and downs. There were periods of maximum tensions as well, going back all the way to the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, but also the Mariel boat lift of the early 1980s and so on. But things right now are really tough. You have everything that is occurring right now is in the shadow of the U.S. operation to capture Nicolas Maduro that we saw on January 3rd. Everybody is asking the same question, whether Cuba is next. Maybe not for a military operation, but for being targeted by the Trump administration for some kind of regime change or other kind of dramatic transition. And in a situation of tension like that, a situation like this is highly volatile. You have incentives really for all sides to behave strangely and to not tell the truth about what they're up to.
Yeah, and then we've got the other side of the coin, right? We've got Cuban authorities saying these people were attempting an armed infiltration, with some comparing this to the Cold War era. I mean, any parallels that we can draw on that?
Well, I mean, it raises the question of whether the Cuban government is trying to recreate, at least the impression, that there is a Bay of Pigs type situation here. Bay of Pigs, of course, the failed invasion and the immediate aftermath of the Cuban Revolution that was sponsored by the Kennedy administration that sought to overthrow Fidel Castro. That operation was notoriously a disaster. And look, it's not clear right now. I mean, nothing is clear right now, just to speak really clearly.
Right.
It is possible, I don't think it's irresponsible to speculate, that the Cuban government could be trying to stage something like this in order to justify actions that they might take at a time when we know that they're feeling a lot of pressure. On the other hand, speaking again quite frankly, there's some reporting from the Associated Press and others that names some of the people who were allegedly on this boat. It raises the possibility if these were, Cuban citizens who live in South Florida, who understand just how delicate the moment is right now, who are enthusiastic about the possibility of some kind of regime change in Cuba, and may hypothetically have traveled there to try to further that change, to try to trigger some kind of event that would lead to the collapse of the Cuban dictatorship after 67 years. We just don't know.
We don't know. Enthusiastic. That's a good way of putting it if that is the case. Listen, we still have to wait and see what more we can learn on this. The Miami Herald now reporting that members of Secretary of Rubio's team actually met with the grandson of the former Cuban leader, Raul Castro, on the sidelines of the annual gathering of the Caribbean leaders in St. Kitts today. So how significant is that as you see it?
Well, I think that all sides right now are curious about at least the possibility of a deal. The Cuban government knows that the Trump administration is transactional. They also know that he is willing to back up his threats. President Trump has said in recent months that he encourages the Cuban government to cut a deal. And, I don't personally expect, and there's nothing that really leads us to believe that, the Trump administration will park aircraft carriers and other naval assets off the Cuban coast, and that we'll wake up one morning and find out that Miguel Diaz-Canel, the Cuban president, or Raul Castro, Fidel's brother, who remains quite powerful at the ripe old age of 94. I don't think we're going to wake up any morning soon and see that they've been spirited away in the same fashion that Nicolas Maduro was. But everybody does know that this is an administration, the U.S. government, the Trump administration, that is willing to use the big stick, the proverbial big stick that Teddy Roosevelt talked about 100 years ago. And so it doesn't surprise me that these kinds of conversations are happening. Again, though, what's really important is the details, which, to continue the theme of this conversation, we just don't know.
Yeah, well, we talk to the experts like you to find out what we can. Brian Winter, we appreciate you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the U.S. and Iran holding another round of nuclear negotiations in Switzerland.